This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Back for hour number 2 on this Monday morning. Big thank you to Spencer Rupke from Hillsborough Central Valley and Scott Kost from Central Cass for joining us to start off today. Let's continue our conversation on North Dakota high school softball, but turn our attention over to Class A because their state tournament's coming up at Minot later on this weekend, starting on Thursday with quarterfinal action. There is a team in there that has a really cool story, and that is the Hawks from West Fargo Horace, and we're happy to be joined by their head coach, Jen Smart. Jen, this has been quite the whirlwind of a season. Just not too long ago, this West Fargo Horace team wasn't even in the region tournament. It made a state qualifier last year, and now you guys are East Region champions. How would you describe this season for you and your team?
I just got goosebumps, Sam, when you said that. But it's been a lot of fun. These girls have bought into the process. You know, our lineup has looked a little bit different throughout the season, and each time we've asked a kid to maybe try something different, they've been willing to do it, whatever the team needs in that moment, and they deliver. So it's just really been a lot of fun.
Tell us about this East Region tournament and what went into that to coming away with the championship at the end, and especially that last game, which looked like it was an exciting one against West Fargo.
It was, yeah, it was the last 2 weeks of our season, I think, which, I mean, every year with spring sports, it kind of turns into the wild, wild west. We had the last week of regular season games. We played Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then our JV team played 4 games on that Saturday. So it was a lot of softball in 6 days. But the girls, we took it one at a time, right? One game at a time. You can't win the 4th game that you have in front of you before you win this first one. And that was kind of the approach that we took into the tournament on starting on Tuesday last week, you know, one at a time again. And then Friday ended up being some crappy weather. We didn't get to play Friday night and ended up having to play 2 games on Saturday, which a lot of people had reached out and said, how do you feel about playing 2 games on Saturday? And I said, well, I mean, there's times where we play 2 games in a day during the week anyway. So, right. I mean, it's no different to us. The girls took it in stride too. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
There's an article up on inform.com right now recapping that game, and what I thought was super cool was after the final out in the article, it described the emotion on your players after winning the championship and knowing that they're going to the state tournament. What can you say about what it was like afterwards, celebrating that championship and the bus ride home?
The bus ride home was awesome. It felt like a concert. The girls had a speaker going. They had their phones out with the flashlights. They were singing away. It was just, you know, everybody played loose. Everybody had fun. And when these girls, when they play loose, that's when they play well. Mm-hmm. And when they put too much pressure on themselves, I think sometimes things go awry. And that was kind of the message all week too, was just stay loose, right? Have fun. Remember why you started playing this game in the first place. Yeah.
Did you guys know prior to the season that this year could be, you know, quite a special year for you guys?
I think the coaching staff did. I think the girls probably did too. We definitely had all the pieces. Whether or not everybody comes to play at the same time is kind of a crapshoot, but we did. I think we've won 12 of our last 13, I think. Mm-hmm. And so it's, you know, they're just doing what they know how to do. So
West Fargo Horace is the 1 seed from the East in the Class A softball tournament coming up in Minot this weekend. Have the late game against Bismarck Legacy, the 4 seed from the West. Head coach Jen Smart joining us on this Monday morning. How much is the conversation now? Okay, it's great. We had a phenomenal regular season. We had a great region tournament. But now we're not done. We want to go out and win more. How much is that the conversation leading into this weekend?
Yeah, that'll be that'll be some of it. A lot of it will be still just play our game, right? We don't change anything just because we go and we play some teams from the West, right? We know that the West is strong, but I think that we have a great shot to come in and maybe shake some things up out there. So we continue to play our game of softball, have good approaches at the plate, play phenomenal defense, which we have done most of the year. I think we struggled a little bit at the beginning, but that's okay, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you practice in a gym for 3 weeks and then you're expected to go outside and do everything perfectly on a softball field, and that's just not realistic. So we do what we can and we get better. That's another message that we've had all year too, is just get better every time we step out on the field, and I think we did that too. Yeah.
For those that are going to be in attendance and watching this tournament or even watching on TV, who should they keep an eye out for? Who's been having great seasons for Horace?
We've had a lot. The top of our order with Kat Flanagan, Braylon Brown, Tristan Strook, it's a lot of speed. We can manufacture a lot of runs that way, which is great. We've talked about that too before, is sometimes in the game of softball, you go into some slumps sometimes, and sometimes you have to manufacture some runs. And with us having some phenomenal speed at the top of the order there, it helps us do that. Mm-hmm. Who else? Josie Carrier, obviously, she's been a big piece for us in the circle this year. Leah Holton, I can pull her. She can be in our starting lineup. She could be on the bench. I can pull her in. She can get me a hit when I need it. We talk about being, it's a team effort, 1 through 16, right? Just because you're not in the starting lineup doesn't mean that you're not going to get in, doesn't mean that you don't have a role. And I think the girls have really bought into that this year, and that makes our job as a coaching staff just that much easier.
I feel like almost every athletic program at West Fargo Horace has had a similar story where obviously it's a fairly new school in the state of North Dakota, but the first couple of years maybe were a little rough, and then there was some success, and then before you know it, one of the top teams in the state, and now this year it just so happens to be softball's turn. What can you say about just the growth of West Fargo Horace and the athletic department as a whole to see this much success all across the board for the athletes over there?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think when you think about it, when kids play varsity sports for 4 years, it's bound to start clicking at some point, mm-hmm. right? When we started this program 4 years ago, we had 6 freshmen and everybody else was in middle school. Yeah. And we still managed to make the conference tournament that year. So that was wild. Fast forward to now, we have 3 of those seniors have stuck it out, which I think is a pretty good percentage. And then, the middle schoolers who have been playing varsity softball basically since they started, it's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. Right. And all of the other coaching staff, they're out at Horace, are super supportive. Hey, whatever you need, let me know. So that's been super cool too, as a first-time head coach for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were those early days like at the beginning of this softball program? Were there challenges that you weren't expecting that popped up?
There were. I don't think that you realize how much upperclassmen leadership really makes a difference on a program until you don't have that. Mm-hmm. But these girls have grown into that role. And I think to grow into that role without having somebody to look up to too and see how they do it and model it, I think is just another great attest to the kids that we have in our program and how they were able to make that growth on their own without having somebody to model.
The baseball team is very good at Horace as well. They're a top seed in the state tournament. Do you guys feed off of each other at all with how much success you both have been having on the diamond?
I think probably there's a little bit of back and forth with the kids. I mean, Coach Irie and I have a great relationship, I think. We do what we can to work together. Our fields are right beside each other, so we see mm-hmm. each other on a daily basis too. And obviously we root for each other. So
Going into the state tournament for the first time, I've talked to a lot of coaches leading into a state tournament, and I've heard the stories of trying to piece together a schedule and getting all the logistics together. What has this been like for you and your staff, just preparing for a trip to Minot and getting ready for a full weekend of softball?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more than I anticipated. I have one of my assistant coaches is working on our itinerary right now. I actually just got off the phone with her right before I jumped on here. She was working on, okay, if we do this, we do this. We win this game, we do this. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have a plan for alternatives, right? Oh yeah, we'll have that too. And so that's kind of been on my to-do list within the last, 24 to 48 hours of being home. It's a lot to organize 16 girls and 5 coaches and everybody else in a different city in the state, and all still while trying to keep that routine of what we're used to and how we know that we're successful.
Have you had an opportunity to look at the rest of the tournament field that you guys will be competing against? What can you say about the competition coming up this weekend?
Yeah, I've had a little bit. We actually played Williston I think it was our second game of the year in Jamestown in the softball day in North Dakota. So we have some stuff on them. We've played Bismarck Legacy in years prior. We played Mandan actually in Midseason Madness. And then Dickinson, that's a program that we've never encountered in our 4 years, but let's hope that this is the year where we're meeting in the championship final. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be awesome. I know you're busy. I'll let you get back to work and getting things squared away for this weekend, but I appreciate you taking time this morning to talk about the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Sam.
Absolutely. Jen Smart, the head coach of West Fargo Horace Softball, joining us on this Monday morning. They have the late game on Thursday, again being the 1 seed from the East. They will play the 4 seed from the West. The action will start at 11 o'clock in the quarterfinal round against between Dickinson and Fargo Davies, and then go down from there. We'll give you a look at the brackets and the TV coverage once again in just a little bit. But tip of the cap to everything West Fargo Horace has done as a school and as an athletic department over the last 4 years. Like I mentioned with Jen, it seems like every single team has had the same arc of, okay, we're a new school. Let's start out a program. In some cases, their opening year wasn't a varsity team. It was a JV program. Maybe didn't win a game for a little bit. Maybe won very few games. And then from there, it has just ballooned into prominence in the state of North Dakota. In some cases, the middle classes and now the big classes, or in other cases, big Class A the entire way. It has been really impressive. Baseball has soared to great heights, and now they have players going off to play Division I baseball. Basketball, we saw over the winter, they had not what they wanted to have at the state tournament, losing the opening round, but they were the heavy favorite throughout the season. We've seen the football team go from the bottom of the barrel to the top holding the trophy over the last couple of years. Girls basketball going on and winning state tournaments as well. The list goes on. The list goes on. And it has been really impressive, and looking forward to seeing what Horace can do after not making the region tournament 2 years ago, falling in the state qualifier last year, and now winning the region championship. And they are the 1 seed, and they have an opportunity to win it all in Minot this weekend. Only time will tell what's going to happen in that tournament. Again, we'll give you a full look at the bracket in just a little bit. Let's take another break. Want to remind you, coming up at the bottom of the hour, 10:30, we're talking Class A baseball with Fargo South's head coach, Nathan Sillerud. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. Hot Mike returns after this.